Good evening, 49er faithful. Welcome to another episode of Between Two Beards. I am your host, Rob Schuh, coming in from very snowy Portland in the middle of a freaking late February snowstorm that is out of pocket for Portland City. Everything's shut down. We got 4 or 5 inches of snow that have landed. And my co-host, who's in Texas, and I'm going to guess it is not snowing there at the moment. Randon, how are you doing this fine evening?
It's a brisk 75, my friend. Nice, nice day to be alive.
Oh man, yeah, I tell you, the days of snow in Portland are few and far between, and so I actually really enjoy them. They're like a white Christmas come a couple of months too late. We had 1 day of snow earlier this year, but it really was an ice storm. And I'm going to be honest that there's every chance this devolves into an ice storm as well, which is like a nightmare. It becomes wind blowing in, ice on all the trees, things start falling around town, power lines come down, it gets ugly. And
you guys have a lot of bridges too.
We have a lot of bridges,
which is the worst for ice because like the wind that goes underneath it. But like we talked about off air, you got to let the truck purr a little bit. Loosen up the 4x4, get the axles greased up, take her out for a little bit.
Hey,
there's nothing like taking a truck for a stroll in 4-wheel drive. It's just
there's not. I had to go out and pick up lunch today, threw it into all-wheel drive, 4-wheel, and definitely enjoyed coasting around the corner, sliding in the slush. It's that it's snowy, it's fluffy, wet snow, but it's right at freezing, and so on the ground, it's melting quick. It makes for fun driving conditions, let us just say.
Yeah, it's nice. I just got my truck back today from the incident, so that's good. I'm terrified to park it anywhere around my apartment complex, but at least I got her back. She's purring like she used to, so it's nice driving my baby.
It is good to have the baby back. That for some reason now I've got that Chili song stuck in my head. Instantly reminded me of Chili's Baby Back Ribs. Want to say hello to those that are here in the chat. The Bubba Stivers 209 show, Beast Mode Gaming, Raphael 5629ers, always doing the good deed, coming in to say good evening to myself, to you, Randon, sneakerheads, and everybody. Troy, it is great to see you as well. We've got Waveware in the house coming up, and Little Beastie to Goat coming in. All right, so we are going to talk about the quarterbacks, and as I see a question come in the chat right now, people want to talk about the quarterbacks. So here's the news that came out last night, obviously rolling through Niner Faithful today. Tom Pelissero reported that Brock Purdy's UCL surgery, originally slated for today, February 22nd. I'm sure he was supposed to be in there having fasted all night, probably arrive at the hospital at 6 a.m., scheduled to go in for that 8 a.m. surgery, now has been delayed. It is going to be until early March before they get back together. No firm timeline on when that surgery is going to take place. And the reason for it is ongoing inflammation. So information we already knew to this point was it's going to be Dr. Keith Meister, who is the team physician for the Texas Rangers, who's going to perform the surgery. And he has an extensive background performing those elbow UCL surgeries, which are, again, much more common in baseball. The reason that Purdy is going to a baseball team doctor here. It was Meister who recommended that he wait after seeing the quarterback on Tuesday. They're going to meet again in early March. Do you see this as reason to be concerned, Randon?
I mean, I was already concerned. I mean, it's a big surgery. And it's not very prevalent in football players. Reason being is that it's usually pretty easier to come back from and everything like that. But I think for me as a reporting the Niners, I think I might like it more because then I don't have to talk about the battle between him and Purdy and Trey Lance all training camps.
True.
Because it looks like his timeline now is going to be more towards like preseason game 3, maybe week 1, or to like all the way up to like October, right? Depending on how long it takes. So
depending upon how long that recovery takes.
So I don't ever wish anything bad upon a player. That was kind of joking, not joking, but it was. I just wish him the best. As far as I don't know like what the procedure is to these things, right? Like, is it common that people have to wait because of inflammation? Is this a normal occurrence? Like, I would like to talk to a doctor to see like how often these surgeries are rescheduled.
Yeah, I will say, in listening to a couple of the radio spots that made their way onto Twitter and some of the doctors that were consulted, it seemed as if most of the doctors interviewed were fairly perplexed about this as well. It wasn't something that was out of the question, right? One doctor that I heard talked about a potential bursitis in the elbow, that the soft tissue that would have been damaged in the injury should have healed by this point. But if you had bursitis or something that was ongoing inflammation, the doctor may want to let that settle down. And then another piece that I read said, hey, like, this is really my interpretation of this. The doctor speaking in the article is that Meister is being extremely conservative in this approach, right? So that it's for long-term health for Brock Purdy, that the surgery, if it's done with that swelling, it could be detrimental to the long-term health. And for Brock Purdy, so young, I'm sure he is concerned about making sure he gets this right, because you don't want to have a nagging injury that 7 years from now, when he hopes to be an established quarterback within this league, he's going back to dealing with issues with that arm that eventually, hurt his career.
Purdy and the Niners aren't worried about week one. They're worried about the rest of his career, right? I mean, you get the crystal ball out. What if Trey Ball is out this whole offseason and now Purdy's a trade chip? Like the Niners have given away a lot of picks in the last couple of years. What if they use Purdy as a trade chip mid-season to a team that needs a quarterback? What if Trey Lance isn't the guy and you just need him for 6 weeks and then Purdy's ready to go for the second half of the season, another historic run, and we move forward? I mean, right. I don't think the Niners are really worried about week one or training camp or whatever, because the guy didn't even have training camp last year and he came in and balled. Not that you don't want him to have the preparation. Right. I'm just saying.
Best case scenario is you get a training camp, but I think you're right. I mean, he didn't have one last year. He was getting the third string reps and he came in and had 12 phenomenal games.
We'll talk about this in the when we get closer to the draft thing, but I think the more and more I think about it and the more and more I listen to other Niners podcasts, I really am in favor of the Niners drafting a quarterback this year.
Interesting.
A starter that's played for 4 seasons, or at least 3 to 4 seasons. Throw names around like the guy from Fresno State. I forget how you pronounce his last name. Max Duggan from TCU. Bennett from Georgia. Like the guys that have played high quality football for 4 or 5 years that could potentially be a third string or backup depending on how long Purdy takes. Really low contract value. Instead of bringing in a veteran, that would cost more money, because we're going to have to, really be conscious of where we're spending this offseason. The more and more I think about it, the more and more that's where I'm leaning for the third quarterback spot on this team.
That's interesting. I certainly value the idea of bringing in a rookie quarterback like that and bringing in another 4-year starter, trying to look for this year's Brock Purdy. Obviously, you're probably not going to strike gold like that 2 years in a row, but you can get more consistency out of a rookie if they have fewer physical gifts and just are able to operate within a system. I do want to get to the super chat that Kevin put in. He says, can't have a Scottish guy without talking about, I want my baby back ribs. Now I've got Mike Myers in my head doing the baby back rib song. Good evening to you all. Let's talk about quarterbacks. That is where we are. I will say I heard one piece, and I'm putting this out there. I almost wish I had my tinfoil hat next to me so I could throw this on. But I did hear David Lombardi of The Athletic talking about one of the doctors that he spoke to in doing his research. One of them said, hey, it is possible, not saying it's likely, but is possible that the UCL tendon could actually begin to reattach itself in between the time when the injury occurred and when the surgery was scheduled to take place. And if that were the case, then you would get more into a wait and see mode. Because they gave the inflammation, I'm less inclined to believe that. But hey, give me just one piece of positive news. I'm going to put it out there just in case there's some positivity to this one.
Hey, I mean, the human body is capable of amazing things. So I wouldn't be surprised if we had bodies start healing themselves.
No, I mean, that's what the body does, right? It is there to heal itself. So we are talking about a 6-month timeline, and that's to do if it is the lesser of 2 surgeries, right? If it is just that, hey, put in the splint or whatever it is, the brace, as they call it, And it's the lesser of the two. If he needs to go the Tommy John route or the modified Tommy John route, it becomes a longer timeline that we're talking about. So looking at being reevaluated in early March with a 6-month recovery time, if it is the lesser of those two surgeries, if it is a best case scenario, then you're talking about getting back sometime in early September, right? Week 1 of the 2023 season is scheduled to start September 7th. And so you are looking at a timeline where if he comes back at that 6-month mark, it may not be in time to start the season. So again, as you were saying, it may be time to have Lance start a few games. That feels like a real positive for Trey Lance and a chance to either reclaim the starting spot in San Francisco. I don't think that's out of the question, or do enough to elevate his trade value such that if Brock Purdy does show definitively that he's the quarterback of the future and the 49ers want to get some return of assets for Trey Lance, it may be an audition for him as to a next team.
Yeah, I think it works well for Trey Lance. And Trey Lance wasn't shying away from competition, obviously, by his interview. But he's now going to get all the reps instead of potentially being 50-50 with Brock Purdy. He's going to get all the reps, which is exactly what he needs. And as much as I liked the story, I like Brock Purdy. I don't really have. That's not that true. But I said if Brock Purdy won the job, I'd be okay with it. But imagine if Trey Lance wins the job,
right?
Like knowing that if the floor is what Purdy did last year, and Trey Lance wins the job, that means Shanahan believes the floor is higher with Trey Lance based on what he saw in the preseason and probably the first 1 to 2 games of the season because of the fact of Purdy's timeline. Like that's got to be all inspiring for Niners fans. If we got a top 5 offense in the league last year with Brock Purdy and you get Lance and he believes that Lance is going to be better for the team, then it's just incredibly sky's the limit from there at that point.
Absolutely. I think if Lance can come in and prove that he can operate the offense at or near the level of Brock Purdy, because Brock just looked so poised when he was back there, looked very in control. If Lance can do that close to that level and add in his physical gifts, it's easy to see why you would go with the higher upside, why you would still want to be optimistic about Lance starting. I'll be honest, I don't know that I actually have a horse in this race. I'm not sure that I'm rooting for one over the other. I do hope it's the old Jim Harbaugh saying of iron sharpening iron. I would love it if both of these guys ended up being the real deal and both of them ended up finishing out their rookie contracts with the San Francisco 49ers, because that does give you option 1A and 1B in case you face that quarterback injury. Because I'll just be honest that like with this delay in the surgery, with everything that transpired this year, with everything in the past 4 years, it seems like having multiple quarterbacks is a good idea for the Niners.
Yeah, definitely much so. And by the track record, we'll probably need Trey Lance and Brock Purdy and quarterback number 3 through the 17-game schedule.
Yeah. Are you pulling for one over the other? If both are healthy, and let's say we get into a situation where I'll throw this out there. So I don't know how much stock I'm putting in it, but the Niners, as far as Lynch and Shanahan, continue to push the narrative that, hey, if it is the lesser of these two surgeries, yes, the recovery timeline is 6 months, but at 3 months, he can begin throwing and can ramp up from there. So I'm not putting much stock into it because these guys have been wrong a lot on injuries. There have been a lot of predictions about certain players coming back, and those players have not come back. One in particular may have cost us the NFC Championship game, right? Like I was pretty sure I heard Jimmy Garoppolo being back by the NFC Championship game. Pretty sure that's why we kept him on the regular roster instead of elevating one of our defensive tackles that might have helped us in that game as well. So I'm not putting a whole lot of stock in it, but if it does happen and you have competition, do you have a horse in this race? Are you rooting for one above the other? Do you think that one is a better potential ceiling, better fit?
I think I'm leaning more towards that. I would like the story of Lance to succeed, just because I believe he's been treated unfairly. His narrative has been treated unfairly by a lot of people in the media. A lot of fans. People are already calling him a bust, playing in 1.5 games. I just really like the kid's head on his shoulder. I really like the fact that who he is as a person. Not saying I don't like Brock Purdy. This isn't the one or the other.
Right.
I've already said on Twitter multiple times that if Purdy wins the job, I'm going to be a Purdy fan. I'm going to back Purdy. If Lance wins the job, I'm going to be a Lance fan and back Lance. So, but I just think that we paid up a lot for Lance. I think his ceiling,
yes, we did,
is from the athletic ability is a whole lot higher. And I just think, like I said, he's been treated unfairly by the media and the fans about, he's garbage or he's a bad quarterback, this, that. Sometimes you just want to see the guy who's been stepped on a little bit, like prove everybody wrong. And I would like that narrative. Just as like last year, I liked the Mr. Irrelevant narrative going on.
Absolutely.
I mean, as a fan, you just wish for these, you don't wish for anybody to fail. It's the Niners. You want your team to succeed. But I think Lance has been just kind of dragged through the mud a little bit by the media. And I would like him to come and just kind of just fuck shit up, to be honest with you. Like, I want him to come into the league and really just dominate and kind of, do this to a couple of the people who have been doubting him.
Right. Because, even in some clips that came from the Pro Bowl, you saw, I forget which NFL player it was, but I believe it was a wide receiver that said something around the idea of the Niners gave up a lot to get Lance. And that looks like it was a mistake, calling that out. So you get it in the media. He's getting it from his peers. I like some of the comments that have been coming in. JT56, appreciate you here in the chat, says, need to give Lance a chance. This whole situation is like what happened with Jalen Hurts. All these rumors for other quarterbacks when you don't even know what you have yet with the young quarterback. That's absolutely true. I'm here with Ian Sharp saying, hey, you pay up big money, big assets to go get Lance. They need to see some return on the investment. To me, it's finding out what you have. It's finding out if you have something and you have something in both quarterbacks, then you probably are in a scenario where you're looking to trade one or the other. Let's be honest that the 49ers, having built a wildly talented roster, have to pay for that. And they're able to kick some of that money down the road, but they have more big contracts coming up. And the advantage of having these guys on their rookie contracts is fantastic. What would be even better is getting additional draft capital in return for one of them having a clear-cut starter in the other, and then having moderately priced backups as well. That becomes the best of all worlds, in my humble opinion. But it doesn't look like we're going to get that competition that we want. It looks like all of the early snaps are going to go to Lance, which could play out in the scenario you're talking about. April 17th begins those offseason workout programs. The on-field stuff starts in phase 2 of that. All of those snaps should go to a relatively healthy Trey Lance. If the timeline for Brock Purdy extends until week 1, you're going through training camp. This sets up to be a sort of storybook return for Trey Lance, and then a lot of drama for the 49ers around who you're going to go with. Because if Lance lights it up during the offseason, has the first couple of weeks before Brock is ready to go and wins those games, are we back to the situation of the hot hand? Does Kyle Shanahan continue to ride with Trey Lance if that's the case?
You have to at that point.
It's been the way in which he's run the ship to this point. Yeah. It was his logic in sticking with Brock Purdy at that point, and it's solid logic, right? I think you want to. He stuck with Brock Purdy because he was the only option. But even if Jimmy had come back, he intimated that he would stick with the hot hand at that point. It feels right.
It does feel right. It's what he should want. Like, if they went out and got Trey Lance, you want Trey Lance to succeed. Like, the ceiling is higher just from a pure athletic standpoint with Trey Lance. Yeah. Now, will he get it all put together? We'll see. But you got to want him to succeed and be your quarterback in the future, right?
Absolutely. I hope the best for both of them, honestly. And like I said, I can't honestly say that I have a favored over the other. I do really like you're painting the picture of that potential storyline for a Trey Lance resurgence. That to me would be potentially even more glorious than the Mr. Irrelevant storyline in 2022. Maybe that's sacrilegious to say. That was pretty damn special, but I don't know. A fair question comes in the chat. Take us back onto this. 91649er saying, Rob, will Kyle run the same offense with Lance as he did with Purdy? Probably not. It does seem as if Kyle wants to incorporate Trey's legs. My observation is his legs may not be quite as dangerous as the hope was. Certainly not the hope for me. Maybe that's because he's still operating a little bit behind the 8 ball, still feeling like the game is going too fast for him. Maybe that catches up. Maybe when he, sees the field a little cleaner, it changes. But it does seem Kyle Shanahan is determined to utilize those legs, push defenses. It's also fair to point out he didn't have Christian McCaffrey last year. So a lot of things would be different for Trey Lance. And I expect that we would see a very different play calling by Kyle Shanahan, a little bit less run heavy as Trey Lance matures. And I would expect with another offseason, we would see Trey Lance that much more comfortable running the offense a bit more like Brock Purdy did.
I don't want him to be running it like Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson. Like he's not that talented of a runner, to be honest with you. Like Hurts and Lamar Jackson are on different levels. Even Kyler Murray, like with his scrambles. I think you look at like Patrick Mahomes and like Dak Prescott and those types of athletic quarterbacks that utilize their legs and scrambles usually average around like 300 or 350 yards a season. If Lance can be around 500, 550, where you get some design runs, you use him around the end zone with his big body, and he's at 500, 550 yards on the ground, like that would be something that I would be okay with, because then he's utilizing his athletic ability in scrambles, and they're not just like throwing him design runs like they do with Hurts and Justin Fields and that type of thing.
Right. I think you're right that you cannot have him running quite as much. I like Jason Walsh coming in. Please, no quarterback power runs up the middle, please. All right, we've got a super chat coming in from Jaguile56. Jaguile, thank you for that. He says, Rob, Trey has talent to compete with Mahomes and Allen. That is why you spent the draft capital to move up and select him at third. It was the dual threat option. It is the next iteration of this NFL, the league that we're looking at here. But I will say that even if you're just able to do enough in moving around and extending the play and keeping your eyes downfield, if Trey Lance takes that page out of Brock Purdy's playbook and we see him rolling out in the pocket, which we've seen him do in the past, but keeping his eyes downfield a bit more, hitting some of those throws, I believe that even without using his legs as that actual second weapon, you would see an unlock of this offense. Again, also adding in Christian McCaffrey, that's going to help out any quarterback, regardless of where you are in your progression as a rookie, second-year quarterback coming into your third year. Having Christian McCaffrey back there as an outlet whenever pressure comes in is a phenomenal tool.
It's just all I think it's just going to depend on. It's always going to depend on Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
Right. Like Purdy's going to be a guy that's going to be able to run his system. And will he relax the reins a bit to allow Trey to be Trey? Or will he say, hey, I don't care how athletic you are, you have to be able to come back and run my offense? I think that's just going to be purely up to Shanahan at that point.
Yeah, and he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who's going to loosen up on the reins, right? He kind of likes that control that he has. It's going to be interesting to see.
But he got glimpses of it with Purdy, right? Purdy was able to scramble around and do some things and some schoolyard football and that type of stuff that he never got with Jimmy Garoppolo. So maybe he saw, hey, if I just let Trey Lance do a little bit of this, and as long as he can hit some of my design plays in time and in rhythm, and I can deal with the off script stuff, it was successful, and I'm fine with it. But like he has visual evidence, right? Matt Ryan is a statue. Jimmy Garoppolo is a statue. Like now he has visual evidence on his own team in his own offense that he's successful. So,
I mean, I'm here for it. You got to let Trey play that way. It's the only way in which you truly unlock everything that he has to offer. I think that's reasonable. Jason Walsh coming in with the observation. He says, hopefully the playbook versus the Texans, speaking about how will Kyle Shanahan use Trey Lance. He said, felt there weren't nearly as many designed runs in that one. We got Kevin coming in as well. He says, to me, Lance is an athlete who's being taught as a pocket passer. He's got the looks, not a Roxette reference, but scrambling isn't his first feel. His acceleration isn't as good as his overall speed. That's interesting. We haven't seen him on very many breakaway runs. We haven't seen too much of the top speed, but definitely does not have the type of acceleration, quick area, short area quickness that we saw from Brock Purdy. I mean, that was noticeable in escaping the pocket. Definitely not a high top speed for Brock, but that short area quickness absolutely showed up on film in those rollouts and escaping the pocket.
Very much so.
All right, let us transition a little bit. Does this change your mind about the overall strategy? You mentioned the idea of drafting a quarterback. Let's shift that to the topic of bringing in a better veteran. Does this force the 49ers' hand to say, hey, we are unsure about both of our young quarterbacks? Both are coming off of reasonably serious injuries. Both have timelines that have been pushed back a little bit, right? Brock Purdy's just got delayed. Trey Lance misspoke a little bit recently about when he was going to be fully cleared to play versus just being fully cleared to run at top speed. So you certainly have uncertainty, but the rest of the roster is built to win right now. Do the Niners have to seriously consider bringing in a veteran quarterback who could step in and win with this team right away, as opposed to going with a lesser veteran or a rookie quarterback?
What vet out there do you feel confident about? Like,
None.
it's not Baker Mayfield. It's definitely not Andy Dalton. Like, you're like
The red rifle is not who I'm calling here.
Josh Johnson, right? Like, why not go out and just get, because ultimately, once Purdy's healthy, like we're talking week 6, week 7, this veteran is QB3. Like, what's the point in bringing in a higher cap hit? Like, you getting, like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, go get a draft pick. It's the lowest cap hit possible. You're hoping that you never have to play the guy anyways, right?
Yeah.
So, like, go get a Max Duggan in the 7th round. Like, the guy started TCU. Like, the TCU, like, the only game they got embarrassed was against Georgia, which everybody got embarrassed by Georgia, right? But overall, he was pretty successful most of the year. You have guys, that 7th round pick, he's probably going to be the second quarterback. He's going to get most of the reps in camp as the number 2 until Purdy's ready, right? So that's a lot. That's good for him, right? I mean, like, what veteran are we getting? Like, I am
the
completely against it.
The question that comes to mind is whether the Niners feel at all desperate with the Super Bowl window, as to whether they would explore some of the more, quite honestly, more conspiracy theory names that get bandied about when talking about the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, it's talked about Tom Brady. I mean, yes, he has retired yet again, but he did it last year and he unretired after 40 days. This retirement,
he officially sent his retirement letter this time, though.
Ooh, the paperwork has been filed this time?
Yes. Yeah.
I wonder if he could still take it back. Tom, are you thinking about taking it back? Would you consider any of those? Would you be looking at a David Carr, Derek Carr, a Aaron Rodgers, calling Tom Brady, seeing if he can rescind the paperwork? Are those kind of names legitimately going to be on the table for the 49ers, or is that just going to be something that Niner faithful talk about in the hopes of some big scheme plan coming into place?
Aaron Rodgers ain't coming to San Francisco. Like, we don't have the draft capital. We don't have the cap space, right? And like so we don't have the draft picks right now. So we trading like Fred Warner and some draft picks for Aaron Rodgers? No, probably not. So I think he's out.
Cisco wants to know about Derek Carr. Cisco 1946 is throwing it in.
No, I mean, what are we going to do with him? He's going to want 30-something million. Do we really have the cap? We have 15 million cap space right now, and we haven't even signed Bosa. Like, realistically, the championship window or whatever that you're talking is best under a rookie contract. Like, let's roll the dice.
That's what actually opens up that championship window the widest.
And what has Carr ever done? Like, what has Carr ever done to win games? Like, he hasn't won. Like, everybody says, oh, wins are not QB stat, but at some time you have to have that gusto and that gut, right? Like, and it doesn't seem that he has it. Like, obviously the Raiders are a dumpster fire of an organization recently. And so, like, they're getting all that taken care of. But, like, he had the best receiver in football. He had one of the best tight ends in football, the rushing leader of the NFL, and they won, like 4 or 5 games? Like, I know it's different with Shanahan and all this kind of stuff like that, but, like, when are we not going to just let Lance be Lance? Like, let's just do it. Like, let's just go for it. Like, if we won with Brock Purdy, a 7th-round rookie, we should be able to win with Lance. Like, I don't understand where this narrative is going from. Like, oh, we have a window. We need to go get a washed-up I guess Carr's not really washed up, but I mean, like, let's go get an old guy to bring in, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, unless you're getting a Hall of Fame type quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, which isn't happening because of his salary. Like, what if now, like, say Aaron Rodgers' contract was about to end or ended, and he's a free agent and he could choose his destination. Like, then maybe you entertain it, because then he could be like, hey, I'll take a $20 million deal to win a championship to cement my legacy. But right now, Aaron Rodgers,
a no-brainer.
Right now, Aaron Rodgers is smoking ayahuasca in some dark cave, thinking about what he's doing with his life. Like, he's not an option at this moment, right? Like, let's just move forward. Like, our quarterback room is going to be $10 million. Like, okay, we're going to extend Nick Bosa, which means his signing bonus is going to go towards his salary cap this year. Okay, there's $10 million of the $15 million gone already in our cap space. Like, where's all this other money coming from all this stuff? I know the cap is like a phantom thing in the NFL, and they could reschedule and do all this stuff.
Oh yeah, there are 5 players the Niners could extend now and free up a lot of money. It would put them in cap hell later on, but they could do it.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, all these kind of stuff goes on. Like, it just makes no sense. Like, we drafted the kid. Let's put him under center and let's roll. Like, I don't understand. If we are,
I love the confidence in Trey Lance.
If we're 1-6 after 7 games, good. We got Purdy, and we can maybe squeak out a playoff and move forward. But like, it doesn't really make any sense for me to like go after any of these quarterbacks. Like,
I think if you're talking about going after them, it's because you're worried that you're not going to have 2 healthy quarterbacks, right? It's not. In my mind, it's not a doubt in the ability of either one. It's not doubt in Trey Lance. It's not doubt in Brock Purdy. It's doubt in having one of them healthy to put them on the field. If you're going into the season,
Trey Lance is going to be healthy.
Not healthy. Say that again.
Trey Lance is going to be healthy. Like, he is already throwing.
Right. That's one healthy quarterback. But the idea is, if he goes down and you're going to your second quarterback, if we've only filled that position with a 6th or 7th round draft pick, the idea of that player coming in and having success seems far-fetched. I like the idea of exploring a veteran. When I see these names, so Kevin coming in with this, a vet is an obvious choice, not only to manage the rookie's quarterback room, but also to win a game if the Super Bowl ready team is there. Mariota, Bridgewater, or Heineke would be around a fiscal option. The conundrum here for me is
Mariota made $10 million last year. He's not signing for $1 to $2 million. Like, Bridgewater is overrated, and Heineke is a glorified, like, he's not even better than Purdy. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, let's just go with Lance. A vet isn't going to get it done. Like, signing a crafty vet, like, this isn't Kurt Warner bagging groceries and he comes off the street. Like, that doesn't happen very often. Like, stick with the kid. Let's go for it. And a lot of these names, like, these veterans are going to be out there come training camp. Like, they're going to be out there.
That's entirely possible. But I think it goes back to the idea of needing 2 healthy quarterbacks to start the season and looking at potential names that they bring in. I just can't imagine that the Niners roll into 2023 with Lance penciled in as the starter, Brock still healing, and then a backup that couldn't win some games, right? A name like a Teddy Bridgewater potentially being in there. I think you're right about Mariota probably being too expensive, but it does go back to the conundrum of, do any one of these players agree to becoming the third stringer once Brock is healthy? So that's what complicates all of this conversation, is that you're not scheduled to have 2 healthy quarterbacks at the start of the season with the delay in the surgery. You'll be lucky to have 2 healthy quarterbacks.
Draft one and sign Josh Johnson.
You're ready for Josh Johnson yet again. John says, bring in Aaron Rodgers, A-Rod or bust. I think Steven is onto something. Stefan is on to Andrew Luck. Just bring him back. He probably won't have to play. He's got plenty of time to put some weight back on. That seems like a very viable guy to throw into that quarterback room. All right. Yeah. Here is an interesting name. Let me throw this one out there. Joe Flacco.
No.
You see a rookie as a better option for that one.
Yes, they're cheaper. Like, you know how many we have like 30 guys under contract. Like,
do
you know how many people we're gonna have to sign?
And we have 10 million in space or something like that. It's not great.
Like, all these people who want all these quarterbacks or thinking about veterans or whatever are expecting people to fail. I'm expecting Lance to be a badass, and I'm expecting Purdy to heal and draft a quarterback. Like,
So are you with Shanahan and Lynch in believing that he starts throwing at 3 months and that he's ready and raring to go come the beginning of the season, that maybe Lance earns that position, but that Purdy gets healthy right around the time that is been listed?
I don't care if Purdy's healthy week 6. Like, I'm fine rolling with Lance and a rookie quarterback. The rookie quarterback is going to be that I want is a 3 to 5 year starter or 3 to 4 year starter in NCAA. Like, you look at like the Stetson Bennett, right? Played at Georgia, played the top competition. He's 25. He's seen everything out there. He's led a team to 2 national championships. Like, you don't think he's ready to play some NFL football, like if need be, in weeks 3 through 5? Like, let's get out of here with this old arm. Like, stop hedging your bet. Like, I'm so tired of everybody trying to hedge your bet here with veteran quarterbacks who still haven't won anything.
But we've seen what happens when you don't hedge your bet, right? When we have a season like 2020, I think that's why some of us have this PTSD of like, we haven't hedged our bets well, and it has cost us.
Let's sign 5 backup quarterbacks because, we needed 4 this year. Let's sign 5 just to be
down
safe.
As long as one of them's Brady. As long as one of them's Brady, then bring in 5.
Oh, my God. At one point in this tenure for Trey Lance, they're going to have to go all in on Trey Lance. Like, I'm tired of this pussyfooting around. Let's just do it. Like,
I'm not so sure that they will have to. I mean, if Brock Purdy comes back healthy, they probably go back to Brock.
Well, it's to be determined. I'm just tired of this. Well, let's bring in this guy. Let's bring in this guy.
I like either storyline, Brock or Lance, either one having success. I'm all about it. Let's transition to a different free agent, considering Taylor Lewan. So Lewan got cut by the Titans, and he could be a replacement. A lot of people throwing this out. Could we bring him in as a right tackle? Just want to throw out some of the cons against that. He's only ever played left tackle. When there was the potential of the Titans drafting a replacement left tackle and moving him to right tackle, he was quoted in the Tennessean in 2016 as saying, "To me, honestly, I never thought anything of it because I know I'm not a right tackle. I'm a left tackle. I knew I was the left tackle for this team, and I knew once I had the opportunity to talk to Mr. Robinson and Coach Malarkey, they would hear my piece and where I was from." So he doesn't want to play right tackle. Now, maybe after some injuries and a few more years of seasoning, he would have changed his tune. Those injury issues are real, though. Only started 2 games last year due to injury, missed all of 2020 with an ACL that he tore in week 2. It was his second ACL injury over a 3-year period. His healthiest season over the last 3 years, he still missed 5 games. So looking at this as a potential replacement, obviously this is in the estimation that Mike McGlinchey is going to get paid a big sum of money. With the injury history, you could see Lewan getting substantially less, maybe a prove-it deal. Is this someone you'd kick the tires on?
Yeah, it depends on what he wants, right? Like, if he's saying, because, I mean, he's friends with Kittle. I mean, he's right. out in Nashville. Didn't win anything in Tennessee, right? They didn't win a championship. So
nope.
He's made plenty of money. He has a podcast now that he's making even more money on. So, like, realistically, he doesn't need the cash. Obviously, cash is nice, but he's not going to be, I don't think he's going to claim $15 million, right? So he's already said that Trent Williams is the best tackle in football. So I don't think he'll have any problem moving over to the right side for the best tackle in football. But what if he comes in and plays with his boy Kittle? He's getting paid $5 million. Like that is, like, if you pay $5 million and he comes back and plays at a, close to a Pro Bowl level because he's healthy, then so be it. If you pay him $5 million and he plays 6 games and it's McKivitz, like, we were going to go to McKivitz anyways. So, like, I don't see the downside. Now, if he still wants to, like, obviously NFL players are going to want to make sure that their time and effort to get ready for a football season, the grind of 17 games, the beating on their body is going to be worth it from a contract standpoint. So
right.
whatever Lewan thinks that his body is worth and what it would need for him to suit up next season is $10+ million, then he's not in the realm of the Niners possibilities, in my opinion. But if he's fine doing a, $4 to $7 million contract, you could definitely talk me into it because the upside is way higher than anything. Like, you would have probably the best, if he's healthy, you definitely have the best tackle room in football, if not top 5, right? So, like
Yes.
at that point, right? And so I think that it just really does what he wants for his deal. I'm sure some team out there everybody's desperate for tackles, will pay him 10 plus million, but
Yep.
he might not, he's like I said, with all the money that he's coming in with his podcast and all this kind of stuff like that, he might be okay just shooting for a ring or going for a ring, right? So you've seen a lot of these NFL players having podcasts, the Kelsey brothers and this and that kind of stuff. So it makes it easier on them to take less money on the field if they're getting it coming from somewhere else.
I think that's entirely possible. And I think it's plausible that the Niners kick the tires. If I'm in on this, I'm probably passing here. The idea of shifting over from left to right, the extensive injury history, the idea that even if he gets that smaller incentive-laden contract, that the Niners are in that situation where spending $5 million on someone who ends up getting injured and missing the season could be reallocated elsewhere. So I think because of the injury history, because the Niners have trended away from those players that have the lengthy injury histories, I'm going to say that outweighs what he brings to the table. 3-time Pro Bowler. Yeah, he's on the north side of 30. He turns 32 in July, but not that old for an offensive lineman. And you're right. I mean, he has earned a lot. He was going into his final year of an $80 million deal. So he's got the money. He could play for a ring. The price would need to be real low for me to consider this one, because I think you're using up a roster spot. And like we saw with Jason Verrett, who I was pulling for, when you do that and it doesn't end up helping you in season, that's one extra roster spot that could have been for someone else. A guy like Jason Verrett, he was on the team, so I was better with re-signing it. As far as a free agent, I think I am passing on this one. I'm going to hope that Jalen Moore and Colton McKivitz can battle it out and look much like Banks and Burford did this season. All right, I know we have to cut this one as a short episode. For those of you here tonight, do me that favor, hit the like button. Randon has got to go over to Hockey Royalty for the podcast. If you want to go over and follow, the link is down below. Go give a subscribe over on that channel. Even if you don't listen to hockey, go support your man, Randon. He is headed over there to do that podcast tonight. You excited for that one, my man?
Yeah, we're talking about one of the best players in history, his jersey being retired, or his retirement ceremony already happened. It's trade rumor city out there. Trade rumors forever. The trade deadline's March 3rd, I think, going there. And then the team is playing pretty well. We're in second place. It's all good in LA, my friend.
Nice. Well, hey, Bro Montana comes in to echo a little bit of your sentiment, but he's pulling for the other guy in the quarterback room for the starter. What's up, fellas? Been a minute. Hope everyone is doing well. BCB is the guy. Lance is the backup until traded. Draft a third string. Am I way off here? Cheers. No, Randon is in agreement about drafting the third stringer. I'm looking at a veteran for that third quarterback. And Randon is hoping that it's that it is the Lance story this season. I'm fine with either one making it out. I think Bro Montana has laid out a reasonable course here. I think Brock could end up being the guy, and if he is, Lance would be the backup throughout this season.
Yeah, but Brock has to be able to battle for that job, and right now it doesn't look like he's going to be. And if Lance is hot through the first 3 weeks, you don't go off that, my man. And Brock is going to look just fine holding the clipboard. On the sidelines.
Both of them would. As long as we're winning, that's all I care about. This has been a fantastic yet shortened show of Between Two Beards. Appreciate everyone that was here in the comments. Randon, thank you for joining me tonight. I will get you over to your other podcast. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Tune in to Twitter and on the channel for updates on when the next Sneakerhead call-in show will be. But until then, you know the drill. Cheers, faithful.